these programs are pretty special. One more thing that makes Three Lakes
Sorry about
really
everything.
special. Be able to come and have something that unites people. In this case, hopefully uniting people from the past to the present. I think we just suddenly have sound, okay, just so we're not too loud. So from the library to this theater, we have another really special thing for Three Lakes. You all recognize that. My grandfather
she usually
built
hooks
this
up.
after World War II.
Do you know what she hooks up?
This is a military
Yeah, this goes
surplus
where?
piece, and almost all of the people of the
Where am I
crew
looking here?
who worked on this were World War II vets from Three Lakes area. I tell you,
Where do I put
I
this?
could know that. And I think it's really
Okay, I'm
wonderful
looking.
what Bruce Rehnquist did, leading the rejuvenation of this theater, which had fallen into ridiculous circumstances. But if you think back to the day to actually have a floor that comes down rather than just a flat floor, it was,
Hold on, I'll find it eventually.
very
I
remarkable.
gotta Google.
But we're not here to talk about my grandfather. That'll come another day. We're here to speak
It's a
about
microphone
Vada
there.
Williams,
What the heck? It shouldn't be this hard.
Indiana,
Our lives should not be this
small
difficult.
farm community in northern and central Indiana. Not all that far from where my grandfather's side came from, but they didn't necessarily know one another early on. But what I want you to do is put yourself in her shoes. I'm going to start with a plaque. Where's my plaque? I got lost and this plaque has been in the town hall since 1966. It was created at the time of the 20th anniversary of the Three Lakes Women's Club. And it was a tribute to my grandmother. They saluted her at that time. And at that time she was, I believe, 76 years old. It was quite an event. I want to read this. It says, in tribute to Vada Perkins Williams, pioneer organizer and founder of the Three Lakes Women's Club. So what I want to do is relate, first of all, Vada is a pioneer and then as an organizer. So put yourself in your shoes, a young woman from northern Indiana somehow ends up here. How does it happen? In 1916, you first arrived in Three Lakes. You were 26 years old, barely 5 foot tall, hair of light red. You had been living in Chicago when your husband plays Major League Baseball for the Chicago Cubs. You were raised on a farm in north central Indiana. You graduated from college, DePaul College at Newcastle. Now, this was an extreme rarity for women of that period to be able to go to college and graduate. You buy property in Three Lakes, which is over 300 miles north of where you lived in the Chicago area. And you buy it sight unseen. My grandparents bought land on the north side of Rangeline Lake on the suggestion of a famous writer, baseball sports writer, Grantland Rice, who had purchased the property up in the Clearwater area. And they had no way of coming up and taking a look at it. He was playing ball. And when you play ball, that's all you do. So they sent my grandmother's brother up to take a look at it. And he said, yeah, this would make for a potential farm. Now we have to take a look at what was the picture of Three Lakes at that time. Well, it had just been all logged off. All there were stumps every place. There's a hill shallow hill, but a hill there on the property, that you could actually look from there and see sugar cane. You could look from Rangeline Lake and see planting ground part of it. It was pretty much barren. Yet my grandmother said this is the most beautiful place I have ever seen. She comes from a farm, northern Indiana. All they do is grow corn on flat land, and there's nothing else, you know. So she thought this was wonderful. So you go on from there. Now you think about this. This is you. There is no home to move into. There was a family by the name of Bishops who had a girls' camp, a planting ground. They met them at the train, took them in, helped them out, helped them get started, and eventually my grandfather got others to help to build a small home. There had been a home on the property at one time, but it burned down. By the way, the McKenna name in real estate is famous here. It was the McKennas that were the real estate agent that sold the property. They started out with about 40 acres. Eventually, it expanded to 400 more acres of farmland. My grandfather always wanted to have a farm, that's where he came from, but not the kind of farm they developed. Listen, a train is the only way to get to Three Lakes. There are no paved roads. Once there, you walk, you snowshoe, you use horse-drawn wagons or sleighs to get around. Town is a tough 2 miles away. Now you talk about town being tough. Let me just read you a quote by a teacher by the name of Mabel Campbell Grove. Now I don't know if Campbell is a relationship to Sam Campbell at some point, but she said Three Lakes was a rough place with 11 saloons and lots of woodsmen. Well, you have a young daughter. She was born in Chicago at Park Ridge where they live. But a small home is built, but yet you have no running water, no electricity, no inside flushing toilet, no shower. Cooking and heating is by split logs. My grandfather prided himself in providing the energy for heat strictly from split logs, never a piece of coal. So you have split logs, what do you have to do? You gotta carry them to wherever you're gonna use them, right? Cooking and heating is by split logs, everything. In winter, you heat large stones to be placed under the covers at the foot of the bed. Refrigeration is by ice blocks cut in the lake and stored in a sawdust pit for summer use. You had no telephone, no TV, no radio, only newspapers and word of mouth. And word of mouth was really the principal point of communication. And so that's why neighbors were really neighbors. It's how you got knowledge of what was going on. There might have been an occasional telegram. There was a telegram office here, I think located across the street where the Black Forest is now. A dairy farm is started, and you supply milk for the town. Gordy, where did this come from? So my grandfather gets all enthused about having a dairy farm in Three Lakes. He was not a dairy farmer in Indiana, but he loved to raise the cows, and they were primarily Guernseys, but Holsteins, and they ended up supplying milk for the town for many years. So eventually you have pigs, goats, chickens, most of it for your own personal consumption in this part. The draft horses and the other animals require hay and oats and a clean barn. Okay, so this all had to be raised, and those barns had to be cleaned. Who's doing it? Let me ask you, are you getting tired yet? You know, you're Veda, who's doing it? Are you getting tired yet? Then 10 rental cottages are built and must be cared for. Now you think cleaning and linens, laundry, and plus your own home has to be taken care of. You've got kids, now the family is growing to 3 kids, and there's no washer, there's no dryer. You must run the farm, feed 2 hired hands, do rendering, canning. You have to manage the rental cottages, raise a young family. You have to have a garden, a huge garden, and you better be prompt with it because the growing season here isn't that great. But canning, you have to provide for not just your family, but hired hands all through the winter. A lot of things have to be canned. And you give birth to 4 children in total, one of which dies at 5 days old because of a debilitating flu has taken over that so consumes you that you cannot move to take care of the child. How it happened is that the bank was about to fail. There was a depression in the early 20s, not just the late 20s. It was affecting the smaller communities and the banks. And Cy was called on to try to help save the bank. He went to Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison to raise funds. He was able to do it only if he agreed to become the president of the bank. And I can tell you that is something he did not want to have any part of. It's not what he was trying to do, but that was the only way the money could come in and the bank was saved. But in the course of doing this, he contracted the flu. And I think it is the flu that was the Spanish flu that worldwide killed millions of people. And it certainly affected many people in this country. So debilitating you could not move for days. So that's you. These are the experiences that you are going through for 3 Lakes. On top of this, having to run a farm, family, cottages, and all this, your husband leaves you for 7 months every year for the next 14 years. I want to read you something that my Aunt Marjorie wrote. She was their oldest daughter. This will be short. This comes from the book here. Pioneering and primitive in 3 Lakes. In my early years in 3 Lakes, living was not as easy as it is now. Mother bottled and delivered milk, cured her own hams, stuffed sausages, rendered lard, and made her own pickled pig's feet. She canned garden produce, get wild berries, and all kinds of meat. Mother cooked on a large range fueled by wood she carried. Lighting was by kerosene lamps. The privy got mighty cold when temperatures dropped to 20 below zero. Too cold to look at the always present Sears Roebuck catalog. She had her own driving horse and buggy for transportation. The horse ran off with her several times. Mother carried her buckets of water from the outside well. This was the only way to keep up with the drinking water, cooking, laundry, and all by hand on a scrub board. The laundry was all on a scrub board. You can imagine you're trying to run 10 cottages with linens and you're doing this. So, flowers, bathing, general cleaning all required water. We all carried a lot of water. We slept under immeasurable blankets to keep warm at night. Our most modern convenience was a party line crank-style telephone. Now, that didn't come into play for a few years, and that wasn't there in 1916. Into the 20s or before you had any kind of a crank-style telephone. But even when I was a kid, and we visited there, they still had like an 8-person party line on a telephone. You know? It was a challenge, you might say. Okay, then there was a wildfire. We said the area was logged off, but when they log off, they take the logs and they leave what's called the tailings. That's all the upper branches. So fires were an issue, especially when it got dry. It didn't take much. I mean, Three Lakes has had some pretty big fires in the old days. Excuse me a second. And I just want to give you a little touch of what Vada went through when one of these fires broke out around where Camp Luther is today. It was the 11th day of April in the year 1929. Now, these are her words. This is one of her 29 little stories that we put together in this book. The long cold winter had passed, and at last spring had arrived. There were only patches of snow in the sheltered spots. The ice had receded a couple of rods from the shore. The open fields were bare and dry. Fred owned the property where Camp Luther is today. He was also a Major League ball player and was a friend of my grandfather. They played together only for 1 year on the same team. In order for the crop to be good, the old grass would need to be burned. I had planned to get a needed fire permit before attempting to burn the field. It was a beautiful sunny day and I had gone to town. Looking across the lake on my return, I saw smoke rising from the field. I hurried down to the pier where I had a better view, and as I watched, I could see the fire had jumped the fire guard and was creeping down the hillside toward the lake where there were cottages. Quickly, I drove to the Rivera's home. Both Fred and Emmy were gone, and her mother and father were standing in the yard watching the fire. I asked for a shovel, and they handed me a scoop shovel. With that, I hurried to see what I could do. There was a path which ran back of the cottages, and as the fire reached the path, I would beat it out. Finally, as I was leaning over a stump, apparently the pitch exploded, and I was showered with fire. I was wearing a wool coat and closely fitted felt hat that didn't catch fire, but my face and hands were badly burned. I was so in shock that the pain was not too great. However, when I touched my face, the skin would slip. The cottages didn't burn. At the south end of the lake, there was a heavy pine timber. I knew if the fire damaged the trees, the owner would sue us for all we were worth. Shouldering the shovel, I made my way across the charred field to where there was a swamp that the fire would have to cross. There were patches of snow and dry spots. As the fire, driven by light breeze, jumped from one dry spot to another, I put it out. I was becoming exhausted. When the foreman came and told me to go home, a crew had come from town to assist, but they were trying to save the Bishop Girls Camp and homes on Planting Ground Lake, which was up over the hill. Camp Luther grounds are, they extend all the way back toward Planting Ground. Dragging the shovel, I started toward Ludere's home. There was a lone pine tree in the middle of the field, and there was a patch of grass beneath it that hadn't burned. I lay down to rest, but realized the ground was damp and cold. So I continued toward the house. On the way, I met Emmy, who had returned and was looking for me. She took me to town to Dr. Heip's, who gave me first aid, and I went home where I remained in bed for 3 weeks. I must have closed my eyes, for although there were burns around my eyes and mouth, they suffered no damage. I should have gone to the hospital, but I had a new foreman, and Marion was threatened with appendicitis. Marion was the youngest daughter. She was a child at this point. Marjorie was only 15 years old, but assumed a great deal of responsibility, and I had a nurse to care for me. Forrest, only 11, and Forrest was my dad. 11 years old, helped Art with milking and other chores. I didn't let Fred know how badly I was burned, or he would have come home. I couldn't write as my hands were bandaged. but I would dictate to Marjorie, for I didn't know until later how serious my injuries were. With the assistance of my family and nurse, I recovered, but for a year or two, it was hard to recognize me. Now that's still you as Vada. And I gotta tell you that I lived with them for 3 summers when I was in college. I never realized that my grandmother had gone through this. I never recognized that her face was all scarred, but it was. So, this is you as Vada's life on the north shore of Rangeline Lake. Let me ask again, are you tired yet? Okay, so the plaque says organizer. Again, put yourself in Vada's shoes. Starting very young and continuing through the decades, she sponsored or helped get the building of a new school for Three Lakes. Originally, there were like 5 little schools, all out way up above. They eventually got, I think there was a picture of it here, a school in town where they kind of consolidated things. She organized the first 4-H chapter for Three Lakes kids. She led the creation of the first PTO for the school. She served, or you served, I should say, I'm trying to put you in it. You served on the school board. You led singing in the Congregational Church Choir. You served as an assistant county agent, and you traveled to teach young girls the principles of sterilization, canning, sanitation, and hygiene. In 1946, 30 years after arriving, you led the formation of the Three Lakes Women's Club. You served as its first president, and later you took another term. With the Women's Club as the catalyst, you pushed for the creation of a new library. Thus, the future Demmer was born. Likewise, with your encouragement and leadership, the Women's Club became the catalyst to get a town hall. This evolved to the town offices building, and thus this is another reason why that plaque part was in that building. I salvaged it before it got torn down. I don't know where we'll go from here, but you have had an impact on the town. If there's a word that comes from other people about her, it has to do with encouragement to be better, that everybody can be better, the town can be better. But there is more. You have countless others in all personal ways. The 20th anniversary of the Three Lakes Women's Club ended with a scrapbook of scores of letters and notes, and my cousin Diana here made sure that that was preserved. It's an unbelievable historical record of famous women of Three Lakes writing very personal notes, long handwriting, some are typed, but all signatures, names you would recognize that are on street signs, etc., all over the township. Recognizing what Vada did. But if you don't mind, let me just give you one example. I'd like to give you many, but they're in this book if you ever want to get it. But this is from Pearl Looming, and it's a poem, which I'm sure Grandma got a kick out of because she wrote poetry. She could quote poetry. By the way, she was quite a linguist. There was no way in the world her grandson would ever be able to beat her at Scrabble or virtually any other game. So she was good at cards and everything. So it says to Vada, I'm proud to say I know you, and to say you know me too, because you're quite the woman, Vada. I wish I were more like you. Some people have a fear to start ventures on their own, so they just stand back and wait, while your kind do it or go it alone. The courage it must have taken to do all that you've done with love, patience, and guidance, all rolled into one. You have left a lot of kindness as you travel through the years, and just as much of sympathy wherever there were tears. A sweet and personable woman you are. With you, God did not shirk. For you instilled courage in others to carry on the work. It took a lot of energy and much more of time and gold to do the many things you've done that have helped Three Lakes to grow. So, I think at this point, I would like to invite my wife Luann to come up and give you a couple of personal insights that might give you a greater sense of the person, the woman there. Okay? Come on.
Well, you're a tough act to follow. First of all, I'd like to say what a joy it is for me to be able to share with you what it was like to be able to call Vada. I called her grandma, but I guess she'd be a grandmother-in-law. I guess I've never heard that term. But when I think of Vada, there are three qualities that just shine, and I'd like to share those with her so you get a feel, you know, what she has done in her life. But I think to hear these qualities, I hope to become real for you as they are for me. She was always open to trying something new. I think you saw a picture. Well, I'll start from the beginning. She spent many times with us in Madison. And after Fred died, she was going to come and spend a week, and Gary called and he said, I'll come up, I'll drive up, pick you up, Vada, or Grandma, he didn't call her Vada. And she said, well, Gary, I've never flown in my life. Fred didn't like to leave the firm ground. So what would you think if I flew from Rhinelander to Madison and you picked me up? Now she's in her late 80s, so excited. So fast forward, the day comes and we're going to pick up Grandma at the airport. I have our two children, a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old. The 7-year-old is beyond excited anytime you could get to an airport, but Grandma's coming. And so we go up to the counter and the ticket agent says, can I help you? And he blurts out, Grandma's coming, my grandma's coming, and she's never flown before. And he looked at the three of us, our daughter and he and I, and he said, well, would you like to go up into the tower and watch your grandma fly in? Now, can you imagine today going up into a control tower? So we walked on the tarmac and we climbed up into the control tower, and there are the agents bringing in the planes into Madison, and they point out one and they say, you see that blip? Here comes Grandma. And what a joy it was to welcome her and to have her know that she had taken her first flight. But one other thing, that she was never to try something new. On that same visit, you saw her lying in a bed. It almost looked like she was in a casket. That was a water bed. And she said, I would love to get up into that water bed. And she's a little woman and the water bed was high. But that was what you saw with her hands like this, and she's lying back and she just loved it. Never afraid to try something new. Another quality of hers that I just treasured was her love of flowers, gardening, and nature. For years, her entries in the Three Lakes Women's Club, well, I don't know if it was Women's Club, but Three Lakes Flower Show took blue ribbons. I think it was kind of intimidating for women when they knew that here comes Vada with her arrangements, and it didn't take a big thing. She could do delicate little things with moss and anyway, beautiful. And she found beauty in nature and shared that beauty not only in her gardening, and in her flowers, but in her poetry. And Gary shared one thing with you, but I have one of her favorite ones that I have loved and have read over and over. It's called Nightfall, and I'd like to share it with you. As I sit alone and ponder at the closing of the day, the shades of night fold round me to chase life's cares away. The loon's love cry from dismal turn breaks the silence of the night, while frogs start up their chorus as they sing with all their might. The lapping of the waves on shore, stirred by the gentle breeze, adds to the charm of nightfall with the murmur of the trees. The stars and moon up in the sky, their faithful watch will keep, as I close my weary eyelids for a night of peaceful sleep. That was Vada. And a third quality of this very special lady in my life is that she was never too busy to make you feel like you were the most important person that she was going to talk to that day. She could be busy doing whatever, and we would come up here and spend a week at a time with her, with our two children, and I always tried to, because she always had a fancy meal or was entertaining other people, and I'm trying to keep the children, and our daughter would say, Grandma loves flowers, and she'd come running into the kitchen, and Grandma's in the middle of meringue on a lemon pie or something, and she'd say, oh, Shelley, look at that beautiful dandelion. Grandma loves dandelions, and I'm thinking, oh my God. She said, let me find a special vase for that. And she'd walk with her hand in hand, and they'd put this little dandelion, and it would appear as a centerpiece on her table that night for whomever was coming to dinner. It's just amazing to me that that's, or her grandson, her grandson, great-grandson, when he was in middle school and she would be visiting us for the week, she would say, now, if you come home during your lunch hour, the school was 5 blocks away. If you ride your bike really fast, I'll make sure that Grandma has lunch ready and we can play 3 games of cards before you have to go back. And he felt like a king, and Gary said he could never beat her, but there weren't many days that he didn't go back to school being the winner, and she just loved every minute of it. So, in summary, her open to newness, never afraid to try something new, her love of nature, and never too busy to give you the time that she wanted you to know that she had for you. Qualities that are benchmarks, I think, for all of us to strive for and achieve. I miss her, and I loved her so dearly.
So, to conclude, I sometimes ask, why did I write this book? And so there were purposes. One was a historical portrayal of life in Three Lakes. We've got great history here, and much has been written. Many great families have produced the fabric of the community. I wanted a factual portrayal of a strong woman of many talents, of grace and of giving, a woman who lived through so many challenges, scares, and small joys. She had joys, she made sure she had joys every day, small joys, but she could make them larger in mind. I think that's what got us through. Vada was always a pleasant person to be around, always a lady. Then to create a total picture of the woman through her stories, from the writings of others who knew her, family and friends, and that's what the book is. At the core of the book are 29 stories that she wrote, and she got an award from the State Historical Society. I think you see it by the fireplace plaque that she was recognized for that. But finally, to see Vada outside of Psy's shadow, because Psy casts a large shadow, which is my next project. And welcome your help. We are going to be, I'm in the process right now of doing the research. It's going to be one book, and now it's two books. One about Psy's life in Lorraine, which is extraordinary stories there, and all of baseball, which is really extraordinary. And then the second book will be about art, architecture, design, and so on, the buildings in Three Lakes, and the Eagle River, etc. And the first book, the sports side, I'm hopeful to have done by the end of the year. And then the second book we will be working on all through the summer, because there's going to be a lot of pictures, which we've already started on. And the great thing about it is people who have his homes, for example, are excited about helping out. The way he did things was very unique. Everything in a home he built. There's no dresser that was purposely put in. Everything is built into those homes. And so there's great design nuances, and that's what we're going to focus on. Quite unique in all of architecture. So that's where we are, and I hope that you enjoy this. This is about Three Lakes Women's Club, and on to the next. Okay?
I am going to do the history of the Three Lakes Women's Club. But before I do that, I have a hat for every decade. And my best hats are the early ones. And the Women's Club didn't start until 1946. So we're just going to have a little history lesson here for a little while. 1881. The first lake the surveyors for the railroad company encountered was surrounded by maple timber. So they named it Maple Lake. The next lake crossed the surveyed town line, so they named it Town Line Lake. And since the range line ran along the west side of another lake, the surveyors named it Range Line Lake. Therefore, this supply station for the lumbermen was called Three Lakes. So the Lakeshore Traffic Company purchased Three Lakes area from the United States government on July 15, 1881. Now, in 1904, Maple Lake is connected to the chain by a canal from Town Line Lake. The water level drops 8 feet. All the wells in Three Lakes go dry. Needless to say, they dammed up that canal. You can still see it out in Maple Lake. 1905, the Burke Rollways Dam is built to raise the water level in Three Lakes. Now this decade is the beginning of the summer camp era in the Three Lakes area. In 1916, the first girls' camp to open was Camp Idlewild, and that was on Town Line Lake. It is the 1920s. 1924, a tornado destroys most of Three Lakes. And in 1925, forest fires were not uncommon in this area from the logging operations. And the last big fire in 1925 was along Highway X, north of Three Lakes. This is my favorite hat. 1931, electric power is provided to the town of Three Lakes. 1932, Main Street is paved and they have electric street lights. 1934, Cy Williams designed and constructed the Black Forest. Now, 1942, the Showboat was built by Carl Marty. 1946, this Three Lakes Theater was designed by Cy Williams. And 1947, the Northern Air was built by Carl Marty. So from now on, it's the beginning of the Three Lakes Women's Club. And I will be giving you the writings from the secretary minutes. I read all the secretary's minutes from 1946 to the present time. It was a long winter. And I picked out what I thought was the most interesting things from the secretary's minutes. So on April 12th, 1946, the first meeting was called for the purpose of founding a women's club in the town of Three Lakes. It was attended by, and you might recognize some of these names, it was attended by Mesdames Williams, Noble, Newell, Zeman, Comstock, Cheatham, Bangs, Sherman, Perensky, Isabel Olson, Marjorie Olson, Nelson, Waite, Craw, Lufke, Sales, Mabel Gensler, Emma Gensler, Singer, Epler, and Champeau. It was pointed out that the organization must be non-political, non-sectarian, and non-profitable. All present expressed a desire for such a club, and temporary officers were chosen. Now, May 18th, 1946, the next month, the meeting was postponed because of a misunderstanding in the meeting time and place. Officers decided to send postal cards to the members to inform them of the next meeting time, date, and place. July 16, 1946. A discussion of a project for the coming year was opened by the president, which would have been Vada. Some of the suggestions were to aid in 4-H club work, a public library, and welfare work. August 20th, 1946. The treasurer read a list of paid members, and there were 18 on the list. The monthly collection of 10-cent dues was collected, and this 10-cent dues monthly went on for very many years. August 19, 1947. The president announced an anonymous gift of $25 to help defray the expense of the club assumed in sending a local girl to Badger Girls' Day. Now, Badger Girls' Day is the citizen convention in Madison held each year. We still today continue to sponsor a girl to the Madison Badger Girls' Day. August 27, 1947, the first flower show was held. September 16, 1947, the next month, a report was given on that flower and hobby show, which had been a great success in both entries and attendance. The silver offering amounted to $47.69. Now, this flower show went on for many, many years, as you'll hear later. April 21st, 1948. A suggestion was made in the possible way of making money for the club to compile a community cookbook. You'll hear more about that later. June 29th, 1948. Mrs. Schwantz offered to start a library in her home. Any books donated were to be taken there. But by the next year, in November 1949, Mrs. Waite, and Mrs. Waite became the librarian for quite a few years, Mrs. Waite reported that the library is open every Wednesday afternoon and evening at the Congregational Church, and that about 100 used the facility so far. The library moved around to different buildings, but a lot of the time was spent in the Congregational Church. June 21st, 1950. That cookbook, it was voted to charge $1 for pre-publication sales and $1.50 thereafter. And it had over 700 recipes. The cookbook was also dedicated to Vada Williams. This is probably one of my favorite entries. February 1952. The February meeting of the club was canceled due to weather conditions, plus the fact that several members were out of town, and the telegram from the speaker that because of a blizzard he was detained in Milwaukee and therefore could not keep his engagement with the club. The secretary, after consulting with several members who could be reached by phone, who seemed disinclined to venture out on such a stormy day, and because by late afternoon the roads, they were advised that the snowplow had not yet opened up some county roads, and having consulted with the hostesses several times during the day, and being under the impression that the cancellation was agreeable to her, called the meeting off. December 1953. Our project to raise money for the community building is a play, and the first play they did was Harvey. Here's one of their programs. August 11th, 1954. Mrs. Sundell gave an interesting talk of the special foods of Hawaii, Japan, China, the Philippines, India, Turkey, and Mexico. She emphasized the fact that in most of these lands there are small amounts of food for the masses. But in the United States, eating is the principal pastime. June 19, 1957. Projects in progress now include silent auction, flower show, t-shirts, waistline aprons, sale of birthday cards, Sam Campbell lectures, and we sponsored Sam Campbell's lectures for quite a few years, and the sale of hanger covers. October 15th, 1958. The club was asked to be hostesses to the open house of the new community building. May 17th, 1959. Here's another program. Our program consisted of a most interesting demonstration given on the cooking and serving of bananas. September 1960. The receipts from our 14th annual flower show amounted to $177.08. May 17th, 1961. The senior girls of the Three Lakes High School joined us for an afternoon tea, and they continue to do this to this day. In May, they always invite the senior girls and their mothers to a tea. 1963 annual report with 54 members, the community library, and a modern, well-equipped kitchen of the community building are two of the main projects. We also have food available for people coming to the polls on election day. And we've done that for quite a few years, that rolls and coffee were sold in the morning, and then there was sandwiches at noon at the polls. The flower show is the biggest money-making project. March 18th, 1964. Books in memory of deceased members are purchased and placed on the memorial shelf of the library, and we continue to purchase books in memory of a deceased member. March 16th, 1966. The Three Lakes Women's Club will celebrate its 20th anniversary. The original membership of the club was 12, but it now has 65 members. August 17th, 1971. The Demmer Library is dedicated with thanks to the Three Lakes Women's Club for their support. July 7th, 1972. Members enjoyed an old-fashioned picnic at Butternut Lake Campgrounds. The games included water-filled balloon throwing contests, which brought lots of laughs as some of the water-filled balloons broke and the ladies became soaked. February 1976. The Three Lakes Women's Club Little Theater Group has been presenting skits for the club and the community. In 1976, they did a skit of humor and song called A Bit of America. In 1977, they did a Roaring Twenties review and a Christmas Tijuana style. 1978, they did a South American song routine. January 17th, 1979. Because our mail comes just addressed to the Three Lakes Women's Club, the postmaster is at a loss to know just where it to be delivered. To make it easier for him and us, we have rented a post office box. We still have it and use it today. November 14th, 1979. The Christmas party will be held at the Oneida Village at a cost of $4.60, including tax tip for a complete luncheon. May 20th, 1980, what did I change it? Sorry. May 20th, 1981. Members were reminded that there will be no flower show this year due to other activities planned for the centennial. And that means there were 34 years of flower show that the Women's Club sponsored and ran. June 16th, 1982. For the past President's Luncheon, members were asked to purchase clothes from the thrift shop for a style show. 14 members modeled their new clothes. This was considered our first fashion show. And this year, it is our 37th fashion show, fundraisers for scholarships for Three Lakes High School girls. And by the way, there are tickets still available at Diversions. September 15th, 1982. There was a discussion on summer meetings. A motion was made that we have regular meetings in July and August so our summer members can get to know our year-round members. August 13th, 1983. Bob Hope and his show will be performing at the Northern Air Big Tent. A parade is being organized. The Women's Club car will hold the first president, Vada Williams, the present president, and the scholarship recipient. And we have given out scholarships almost from the very beginning, but now it is the high school senior girls that we give scholarships to. You may recognize this as a red hat lady, and this was a red hat lady, because the red hat ladies started in 1998. August 21st, 1991. The Luncheon and Fashion Show will try something different this year. The first priority is to raise money for scholarships. No one will bring any food. It will be prepared by the food committee. January 1994. It was proposed that we add chili to our dessert menu and invite our husbands to the program. And we still do that today. In January, we have a chili luncheon, and our husbands are invited. November 16, 1994. Concerning the fashion show next year, it was decided that the raffle of handcraft items or other donations was very successful, and the club should continue with that format, and we still have raffles today. June 19, 1996, the 50th anniversary of the Three Lakes Women's Club was held at the Rock and Gun Club. Breast cancer logos on here. April 17, 2000. The fashion show will be changed to our regular meeting date in September because store owners had little fall merchandise available in August. July 19, 2006. A donated $3,000 diamond pendant to commemorate our Diamond Jubilee will be raffled off. All monies will be put in the scholarship fund. April 17, 2013. An informational brochure is being worked up, and we have an updated one every year. May 20th, 2013, we have a new Facebook page. August 2013, we had our first annual shop downtown Three Lakes. July 4th, 2014, several ladies participated in the Lawn Chair Ladies Brigade at the 4th of July parade. We only got honorable mention because we did not have a float. Well, July 4th, 2017, the Lawn Chair Ladies won first prize at the parade because we had a float. We gave the judges a root beer float. March 9th, 2019. This is the first time the Lawn Chair Ladies have performed at the Open Mic Talent Show for the Parent-Teacher Association of the Three Lakes Schools. And in 2019, we are proud to announce that the club has awarded 5 $1,000 scholarships to Three Lakes high school girls. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to be a member of the Three Lakes Women's Club, started by such distinguished and forward-looking ladies as Vada Williams. Thank you.